Our guest for today is Mr. Rajesh Jain, the founder of Netcore Cloud, Asia's largest marketing technology and customer experience company today. A techie, a writer, and an industry leader, Mr. Rajesh started his entrepreneurial journey when he created India World, India's first internet portal in the late 1990s with a vision to connect India globally, and therefore today he is known as the pioneer in Asia's .com revolution. Post that, he continued brewing and building on new ideas with Netcore Cloud as one of his biggest ventures and has successfully turned it into what he proudly calls a Proficon. So, let's deep dive into the journey of this digipreneur. Hello, Rajesh. Welcome to Digital Dialogue with Prasad, where I interact with leaders like you to understand your journey, about your company, and the customer problems that you are trying to solve, about your views on technology, consumer behavior, and a bit about you as a person. In process, we get inspired in next 20 odd minutes. Rajesh, uh, being a BTech, being a
Thank you
BTech
very much, Prasad, for having me.
welcome on the show. So Rajesh, being a BTech from IIT Bombay, I think 84 to 88 batch, to India's first website creator, to selling India World. I think it was the first India's first .com acquisition, to now running one of the leading MarTech SaaS companies. How has been your journey, and what are the important milestones?
So, Prasad, after I graduated from IIT Bombay, I went to the US. Um, like my father had done 25 years ago, he told me, finish your master's in 9 months. So, I was at Columbia, work for 2 years, which I did at 9X, and then you pack your bags and come back to India. So, my decision to come back was pretty much made before I left for the US, and I came back in 92. For the first 2.5 years, I did a lot of different companies and projects and initiatives, and all failed. So late 94, I was at my wits end. I thought once upon a time I was God's gift to the country, IIT, US education, and all that. And here I was after 2.5 years, total failure. And then I went back to the US for a couple months. I stayed at a friend's place. That internet. One of the ideas I knew I had to do something different. So internet was one of the ideas was picking up at that time. And in that 2 months, really, I sort of crafted the idea of creating an internet portal for Indians outside of India came to me. And it came from some of my own experiences. When I was in the US at that time, it was very difficult to get information on India. Two newspapers would take 7-10 days to reach the libraries in the US and so on. So what I did was basically said that okay, the internet can work as a great bridge of distances. And India World I launched in March 1995 as what I described at that time, an electronic information marketplace. Um, we were the first internet portal. We launched very close to the time Yahoo did, eBay did. So we were very early in the internet space at that time. 4.5 years later, like you said, I sold the business for $115 million. For the numerically inclined, that was 166 times revenue. In today's times, we see 10, 20, 30. It was a pretty large multiple. But those were the heady days of the .com boom. And a lot of ups and downs, of course, in those periods, but it was a good exit. And that was around the time also I started Netcore. First 10 years, Netcore did not grow much. And I made, I think, what is probably the smartest decision in my life after selling India World was to hire professional management and a CEO for Netcore in 2007. And that's what started Netcore's growth journey. So in the last 15 years, we've grown very well to become a global MarTech player. So that's the nutshell summary of my journey.
Very interesting one. I still remember that news item when I sort of was trying to multiply that 115 million and trying to get that number. But it's such a I still remember that news item. Okay, I was like odd. Okay, how can that happen? Okay, great one. Very interesting one. You were talking about Netcore, and I mean, all of us know that Netcore Cloud has been helping B2C brands create that exceptional digital experiences with various products that help in acquisition, engagement, and retention. But to reach to this level over last 25 years, Netcore Cloud has gone through multiple transformations. You have been continuously seeing the change and trends and pivoting the company. We will really like to know about important pivots and how did you manage to transform the Netcore Cloud as a company.
A very good point, Prasad. It's been around for 25 years. The first 10 years, we barely grew. We were running a Linux based mail server business and trying a lot of ideas. Um, so while I've had these two successes in India World and Netcore, there have been 30 plus failures in my life. Some of those came in those 10 years. We built the world's first blog search engine. We had a thin client, thick server solution to reduce computing costs. A lot of such things, they didn't work. And that was when I made the decision to basically hire a CEO. I realized I'm the problem. I can come up with ideas, but I cannot go out and sell them. So that was the first big pivot. That just doing from Linux based mail servers to companies, we started working in the enterprise SMS space. So SMS was picking up at that time in India. And we said we'll start with that. We were also trying to do something in the consumer SMS space, but that didn't work out. There were multiple rule changes on TRAI, which made it very expensive. But the enterprise SMS business started doing very well. We also started getting inputs from customers for email solutions. They were already using us for their internal email, and they said, "Look, we have these email lists, especially the media companies, and we want to now send out emails at a mass level to our customers, to our list. Can you help us doing that? You people understand email very well." So that started us on the email journey. So that's how the two businesses began, email and SMS. And they grew very well over the next many years. And in 2014, around thereabouts, one of my colleagues came up to me and said, email and SMS is fine. We are at the bottom of the stack. We need to now think above the upper layers. And that area that was emerging was marketing automation, MarTech, marketing technology. That essentially, how can you help brands and marketers automate their customer journeys? So not just sending out one campaign at a time, but you can create journeys to then help engage better with their customers. So that was the next big shift. We started building a marketing tech solution to help marketers and brands engage. And then a few years later, we also expanded that. So that, of course, continued along with the email and SMS channels. And then we did two acquisitions, which expanded the full stack that we could offer marketers. We bought a personalization company and we bought a product experience company. So the Netcore of today, after all of these pivots, is really a company which can go out to brands and offer a full stack. So from communications, customer engagement, and the product experience layer, basically nudges inside of apps. The other shift that happened, the other sort of pivot was to start looking outside of India. So around, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, we also expanded from just doing email and other solutions in India to Southeast Asia. So we started with Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And in the last couple of years, we've expanded operations in US and Europe. And of course, now through B2B SaaS, we are also able to sell to many other countries. So Netcore of today is really a global B2B SaaS company working in the CPaaS and MarTech spaces. And our core proposition is that we help brands essentially create customers for life. So how do you maximize the lifetime value by better engagement, by better customer experiences on the website, on the app, and in the communications that they're sending out? So that's the Netcore of today.
I think very interesting here. There are a few points that I was picking up, wherein you so easily you talked about number of failures, 30 odd failures that you talked about, right? And very interesting to see entrepreneurs like you celebrating those failures and openly talking about the failures. Second thing is that the ability to pivot is also has a very strong correlation with your ability to pick up the trends much earlier, okay, and without any fear of failure working onto it. So that's a, I think, something which is something which is very important for all of us to learn from successful entrepreneurs like you. But that sort of adds to my thought process in terms of how the consumers have changed, right? Um, uh, uh, Especially today's consumer, where before making a purchase, he has to go through multiple touch points. Of course, COVID is one of the important catalysts, but the technology and changing consumer behavior are driving this change. And talking about trends, what are those important trends that you see in the customer engagement and experience space? What are those going to be, next 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, that you see as a change in the customer engagement and experience space? Because you understand that pretty well.
Very good question, Prasad. So I think, see, the fundament, if you look at the last 20 years, it's really been what I call the ad tech era, the age of ad tech. So for the last 20 years, we've seen the rise of Google, um, Facebook, and of course, increasingly now Amazon for customer acquisition. And they've created trillions of dollars in market cap, all on the back of helping companies acquire new customers. 90% of budgets are basically being spent on customer acquisition. And what's happening now is that the cost of customer acquisition is rising very rapidly. And that is now starting to hurt brands, because it impacts, of course, profitability and the way they can grow. Because with customers being digital, it's an arms race out there for new customer acquisition. And I think this is where brands and marketers have basically missed a very important trick. See, what they are not doing is really building deep relationships with their existing customers. So till easy money is available, you can keep spending on the ad tech platforms, and then you can keep getting in new customers. But once that money sort of slows down, then what happens? You've got existing customers. What can you do with them? And that is where I think the next decade is going to be really about MarTech. I call it the MarTech era, where what brands are going to realize is that the ad tech bucket is a leaky bucket and they cannot win that game. It's expensive spending. And my belief is that today, half the money that is being spent on ad tech, which is about of the total of 400 billion, 200 billion, half, is actually being wasted because of two reasons. Number one, there's a lot of reacquisition going on because brands are not taking care of their existing customers. So they are churning and then they are getting reacquired after they go dormant through Google and Facebook. Second is wrong acquisition. So they are not using first party data in the world of MarTech to actually decide on which customers are the right ones to acquire. So it's sort of pretty much random, a lot of random acquisition. And you see that today. There's 50-70% of people who install apps uninstall within the first 30 days or so. So this is not sustainable. So this is the backdrop. This is where I see the next phase in the brand customer relationship is going to be about how do you build deep relationships with your existing customers. And that really is the single largest opportunity. Today, what is 10% of marketing spend, I think will expand to probably 30 to 50%. And that's the biggest opportunity I think is one of the biggest opportunities I see globally in terms of shifts which are happening. So now the question really comes is how can you make this happen? What are the factors which are causing this? One, as you rightly pointed out, is the digital customer, especially in the post-pandemic world. The second is the availability of data that is there. Massive data. We are all leaving digital footprints whenever we are browsing or doing things on the app. All of that is there. The third is that AI now can work amazingly well. So the machine learning basically does a lot of good predictions on what expected behavior is there, what next transactions customer is expected to do. And by putting all of this together, for which what brands really need is an integrated MarTech stack. They need very good push messaging because that's one of the only ways you can really bring your customers back to your website or app. And then once they are there, you need to use AI, you need to use the full stack MarTech solutions to be able to automate their journeys, to be able to do predictions on what they are going to do next, give them personalized recommendations and so on. And once you do that, once you craft these very interesting and differentiated experiences for your existing customers, two things happen. Retention rates will go up, so the churn will come down. And because once retention rates go up, you're going to spend less money on trying to acquire new customers. Second is you can tap your existing customers to help get you new customers. So referrals, or what is also now being called customer led marketing. If I am happy, I'm going to naturally spread the word to friends and family members because we are all connected on social network and otherwise. Word of mouth is a very powerful way. So all of this put together, what it's doing is essentially transforming the way marketing is going to work in the next few years. So the ad tech era, I think, is going to slow down or really come to an end. The waste that is happening can now go into two buckets. One is it can help companies build better relationships through martech, and second is it can enhance their profitability. So the companies which use martech well can lay the foundation for what I call exponential, forever profitable growth and becoming profipolis. So profit monopolies. In the ideal world, what do you want? You want the customers in every any category who are the best customers, who will spend the most. If you can acquire them, keep them for life, and get their friends and family who will also be best customers. I think you got the makings of maximizing profits in an industry, and that sucks out the oxygen of growth from your competitors. And that's the foundation for creating profipolis. You've only seen the big tech becoming profipolis, but hopefully in the next decade, we'll see brands who use tech well, who use the MarTech type SaaS solutions very well, becoming profit monopolies in their own right.
Very interesting one, and I really like the basic premises on which you sort of described the trend, which says that deep relationship with existing customers. So very true. You also talk about Proficon. Just for the viewers, what I understand, I have read some of your interviews. I think it means private, profitable, bootstrapped, and highly valuable. Is that true? And I also have heard, you love to form some words like this, which is a combination of two or three words. But really great to hear that from you. But coming to a bit of you have built such a great company. You understand you understand the trends, okay? But while building such a great company requires, apart from a from great vision and belief, many strong values. Okay, which are those two or three important values that you would suggest to the professionals, Rajesh?
I think there are, one is definitely punctuality. I know it may not sound a very big thing, but um, it's amazing how being on time can really make a big difference in a meeting. And a lot of us do meetings. So in the world of Zoom, I have this 1-2 rule. Uh, if it is my link, then I have to start the Zoom link 2 minutes before. If it is someone else's link, I will join 1 minute before. Because if you are on time, the seconds have ticked by and you're actually late. So I think punctuality makes a big difference. And that's of course it's becoming pretty good in the last couple of years thanks to digital meetings. I think the second one, which I would sort of look at, is uh, humility. I think the ability to constantly learn, to introspect when you make mistakes, as to what did you do wrong? Did something go wrong in your decision making process? Why did you make mistakes? Humility to basically accept that you have erred, and the humility to basically become better. So I think that's very, very important because none of us is perfect. But if we can become a little bit better each day, and as it said, 1% better each day, you're 37 times better in 1 year. So, and I think you can learn from various people, small, I mean, young and old, who are running small companies to large companies. So the ability to constantly reflect at the end of a day, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Ask in meetings, what could I have done better? And I think the humility to basically put ego aside and constantly learn. I think that's a very important attribute to become a better person.
Very well said. Punctuality and humility, it's such a, they sound very easy to do, but yes, every day, every second, I think we'll have to work on that. I think talking about yourself, Rajesh, I was told that your hobby is mind wandering. Okay, it sounds interesting. We'll really like to know more about it.
So it's a word I came across. I used to, of course, do it a lot earlier, but recently I came across a book title, which is mind wandering, and I started reading, and I said, this is exactly the right word to use. So it's really, see, I think what is very important is, in today's world where there are a lot of distractions, emails coming in, WhatsApp coming in, phone calls coming in, you have social media where something new, breaking news all the time, etc. How do you get contiguous time to actually think and reflect and look forward? I mean, when is the last time we spent 2 to 3 hours immersed in a book? When did we spend time just thinking, sitting in a place, letting the mind wander, imagining what tomorrow's world can be? And that's how the ideas come, because then you start collating all the things which are there in your head, coming together. So it's really letting the mind wander. So it's not exactly daydreaming, probably a little bit more than that. But the the prerequisite for something like this is really the ability to have me time and comfortable, without touching a phone, without going to the computer, sitting in a place, undistracted, quiet, silent time, and just thinking. Because today that's becoming very hard with all the distractions that are there around. So I think mind wandering is really where I get my best ideas from, whether it's on a long flight, whether it's sitting in at home, for a couple of hours and just using my notebook to write out my ideas as they flow in. We need to let the mind wander and then put things together. I think it's very important in today's times.
Very interesting discussion. I also get to know that you not just the mind wandering, but I think you really like, in the fiction you also like to sort of. One of the things that I think, the last discussion that we had about humanity colonizing across solar system, and that is the reason probably you like the expanse. Is my understanding right, Rajesh?
Absolutely, I love science fiction, and I've been watching The Expanse on Amazon Prime. It's 6 seasons, I think about 60 plus
Wow.
episodes, probably all put together. And it goes back to our childhood. I think you and I are somewhat of the same ages. At least our hair is all not there,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
I can say we are similar. But
yeah,
we
yeah.
grew up with, Star Trek, the
Star
first
Trek,
station,
Cosmos. Yeah.
Cosmos, the Star Wars
Star Wars, yes.
were there. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy. My oh, lovely. Okay, how many times trilogy? 5 books of
So the
trilogy. I can't believe. Yeah.
space was a very important, it was a very interesting thing, which was there in our life. And this Isaac Asimov's Foundation, also
Wow.
which we have read. And now, in fact, in the last year, Apple TV had this whole Foundation season one, which was fascinating. And then someone said, Rajesh, if you like that, you should look at the Expanse. Expanse takes it even further. There's Earth and Mars and all of this. But at the core, when you read it, when you see it, when you watch it, there's of course a book series also. It's about human relationships. It's about friendships. It's about family. Family in a little different context as you watch the series. It's about humanity's desire to basically go into the unknown, explore new worlds, and it's beautifully done. The science itself is very good, and it's a very gripping series. And it just, for the time that you watch it, it just transports you into a future which we probably will not be able to live to see, but a fascinating future which brings to life some of the imagination that we had as kids.
Very interesting. And this is the last question. If you have a time machine and you can go back to that 1988, what will you advise yourself, a fresh engineer just out of IIT Bombay?
Okay, so one thing which I would do is to tell, say, myself back, whatever, 1988, is do not have tunnel vision. There are key ideas in every area, of economics, physics, chemistry, biology. The core ideas from multiple disciplines you must understand. So IIT, typically when we were growing up, the education was a very narrow education. Essentially, so engineering, we had a few courses in humanities or whatever, but those were just time pass courses. We never took them seriously. But when I look back, one of the key things as you grow older, you realize is that decision making is very important, and good decision making needs a lattice work of mental models. Is the title of a book. Lattice work is the title of the book by Robert Hagstrom in the context of Charlie Munger. And I think if we can connect these ideas together, the best ideas from economics, sociology, psychology, and other fields, and there are three or four key ideas in each of these things. They just help you with better decision making. And my regret is that I started thinking like this only probably 5 or 10 years ago. And if I had done that earlier, I'd probably have maybe made better decisions for the early part of my professional life. That's what I would advise my 1988
Thank you very much.
founding
I mean,
friend.
many of us who are watching this probably, it's a good advice, and really love that. And thanks again, for taking us through your journey, talking about your company, the product, the trends that you see, the books that you like, the hobby that you have, and definitely a great advice that you have given. Thank you very much for inspiring us, and really, I hope that our viewers would love this interaction very well. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Prasad. Wonderful conversation. Great questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajesh, for coming on the show and inspiring us by sharing about your journey, about your company, letting us know about the trends, and sharing your learnings. Thanks again.